Scharnhorst, 1943. The German battleship Scharnhorst was sunk on December 26, 1943 during the Battle of the North Cape, in the freezing Arctic waters near northern Norway. Built back in the 1930s, Scharnhorst was fast and well-armed. Earlier in the war, she had gained a reputation for attacking Allied supply convoys. This time, she was sent on a mission called Operation Ostfront to attack convoy JW-55B, which was carrying supplies to the Soviet Union. But the Germans didn't know that British intelligence had already cracked their plans. The Royal Navy had set up a trap, with a powerful force led by Admiral Bruce Fraser on the battleship HMS Duke of York. Scharnhorst left the port of Altenfjord with 5 destroyers, but the weather was so rough that the destroyers had to turn back. That left Scharnhorst sailing alone. The British cruisers, including HMS Belfast, struck first. They knocked out her radar, which basically left her blind in the middle of snow, darkness, and chaos. Scharnhorst tried to escape, but it didn't work. HMS Duke of York hit her hard, damaging her engines. Then British destroyers closed in and launched several torpedoes. By the evening, the ship was too badly damaged to stay afloat. She went down with almost 2,000 crew members. Only 36 survived. The British also lost 21 sailors, and 11 were wounded. Scharnhorst's sinking was a huge win for the Allies. It removed the last big surface threat to the Arctic convoys and showed how important radar and teamwork had become in modern naval battles. In September 2000, a team from the BBC, NRK, and the Royal Norwegian Navy found the wreck at the bottom of the Barents Sea. The ship was lying upside down, and her bow had been blown off, probably from a massive explosion inside the ship. Investigators later confirmed that once her radar was gone, Scharnhorst never really stood a chance. Fuso, 1944. During World War II, Japan suffered one of its most tragic naval losses at the Battle of Surigao Strait on October 25, 1944. This battle was part of the much larger and more intense Battle of Leyte Gulf in the Philippines. The battleship Fuso, launched in 1914, played a major role in this fight. She was one of the first battleships that was fully designed and built in Japan. By the 1930s, Fuso had gone through several upgrades, but even with the improvements, her armor and layout were outdated compared to newer warships. Under the command of Vice Admiral Shoji Nishimura, Fuso sailed into battle as part of the Japanese Southern Force. Their mission was to stop American forces from landing on Leyte Island, but the U.S. Navy was already prepared. Rear Admiral Jesse Oldendorf had his ships positioned right across the narrow strait, creating a deadly trap. As the Japanese fleet moved in, they were first attacked by American PT boats. Then, U.S. destroyers launched waves of torpedoes. Fuso was hit hard by one of them, fired from the USS Melvin. The damage was serious. The ship slowed down, lost its ability to communicate, and started leaning to one side. It eventually fell behind the rest of the fleet. Despite the crew's efforts, the battleship couldn't recover and sank not long after. Out of more than 1,600 sailors on board, only 10 survived. For years, there was confusion about what exactly happened. Some believe Fuso had broken in two before sinking. But in 2017, a research team aboard the vessel R. Avi Petrel found the wreck deep under the sea. It was upside down but mostly in one piece. The front of the ship had folded backward along the hull, but it was still clearly attached. HMS Victoria, 1893. The HMS Victoria disaster took place on June 22, 1893, during a British naval exercise off the coast of Tripoli, which is now part of Lebanon. Launched in 1887, the Victoria was the flagship of the Mediterranean Fleet, armed with 2 massive 16.25-inch guns and a forward turret. While she had impressive firepower, the ship also had serious design flaws, one of which was reduced stability. During the exercise, Vice Admiral Sir George Tryon ordered 2 columns of ships to turn inward at the same time to change direction. The spacing between the columns was just 1,200 yards, way too close for both ships to turn safely, as each needed almost that much space. Some officers raised concerns, but Tryon insisted they go ahead anyway. The result was disastrous. The HMS Camperdown collided with Victoria, tearing open her starboard side below the waterline. Water flooded in quickly, worsened by the open portholes and hatches left open because of the summer heat. Just 15 minutes after the impact, the Victoria capsized and sank, taking 358 men with her, including Admiral Tryon. Reports say that before going down with the ship, Tryon acknowledged his mistake. In 2004, divers Christian Francis and Mark Elliott discovered the wreck at a depth of about 460 feet. They found it standing almost upright on its bow, with the stern facing the surface. Experts believe the ship's weight distribution and still-moving propellers caused it to settle in this unusual position. Investigations later confirmed that Tryon's poor judgment and his refusal to listen to warnings were the main causes of the tragedy. His officers were later cleared of any blame. Dunkirk, 1940. The French battleship Dunkirk was launched in 1935 and was quite ahead of its time. She was built specifically to take on the German Deutschland-class cruisers and became the first of her class. What made Dunkirk stand out was her unusual design. All of her main guns were placed at the front in two large turrets. This setup made it easier to focus firepower straight ahead. But sadly, Dunkerque met her end on July 3, 1940 during a British attack on the French fleet at Mers el-Kebir, a port in Algeria. Just a few weeks earlier, France had signed an armistice with Germany, and Britain was worried that the powerful French Navy might end up in German hands. To stop that from happening, the British launched Operation Catapult, a mission to take control of or destroy French ships. At Mers el-Kebir, the battleship Dunkirk was docked with its back to the sea, which made it hard for the ship to move or defend itself properly. The British tried to negotiate first, but when that failed, they opened fire. Dunkirk was hit several times. One shell slammed into a main gun turret, causing an explosion inside and killing crew members. Another damaged the rudder, while a third one tore through internal sections of the ship, setting off ammunition and damaging key machinery. A fourth shell exploded in the boiler room, knocking out the ship's power. To stop Dunkirk from sinking, the crew managed to beach her near the shore. The British thought the ship might still be usable, so they launched a second attack on July 6th. This time, torpedo bombers went after Dunkirk. The ship itself wasn't hit directly, but a nearby patrol boat named Terra Neuve was struck. Its depth charges exploded, sending shockwaves that caused more damage to Dunkirk's hull. Some compartments flooded, and parts of the ship's structure were bent out of shape. Even with all this damage, the French were able to refloat and repair her over the next few months. In November 1942, things took another turn. As German forces moved in to seize the French fleet at Toulon, Dunkirk's crew scuttled the ship to keep it from falling into enemy hands. Later on, the ship was partially dismantled by Italian and German forces. After the war ended, the wreck stayed in Toulon until it was officially removed from the Navy list in 1955 and scrapped in 1958. IJN Congo, 1944. Congo was Japan's first modern battlecruiser, built in Britain in 1913 and later upgraded into a fast battleship in the 1930s. Known for her speed and firepower, she served in key Pacific battles before meeting a tragic end on November 21, 1944, during World War II. On that day, she was on her way back to Japan from Brunei, along with two destroyers, Hamikaze and Isakaze, when an American submarine, the USS Ceylon II, spotted them in the Taiwan Strait. The submarine slowly got into position and fired 6 torpedoes. 3 of them hit Congo on the left side, near the boiler rooms. The damage was serious. 2 boiler rooms flooded right away, which slowed the ship down a lot and made it tilt to one side. Still, the crew tried to keep her going and worked hard to stop the flooding. But as more water came in and the damage spread, it became clear they were losing the fight. Then, without warning, a huge explosion ripped through the front part of the ship. It's believed one of the main magazines, where ammunition is stored, blew up, likely because of fires or seawater reacting with unstable explosives. The blast tore Congo apart. She sank quickly off the coast of Taiwan, taking over 1,200 crew members with her, including Vice Admiral Yoshio Suzuki and Captain Yoshio Fujita. Only about 200 sailors survived. To this day, Congo's wreck has never been officially found. Based on survivor stories and U.S. Navy records, it's believed to be somewhere northwest of Taiwan, around 350 feet underwater, but no one has confirmed the exact location yet. Congo holds a sad record. She's the only battleship in history that was ever sunk by a submarine while moving at sea. HMS Barham, 1941. HMS Barham was a massive battleship of the British Royal Navy, launched during World War I and known for her power and size. She measured about 643 feet long, weighed over 34,000 tons when fully loaded, and carried 8 15-inch guns. Her thick armor and powerful weapons made her one of the most important ships in the fleet. Barham served in several major battles and, by 1941, was playing a key role in the Mediterranean Sea supporting Allied forces in North Africa. On November 25, 1941, Barham was part of a group of ships near the coast of Egypt. Their mission was to stop enemy supply convoys heading to support German and Italian troops. While patrolling the waters off Sidi Barrani, the group was attacked by a German submarine, U-331. The submarine managed to sneak past the escorts and launched 4 torpedoes at Barham. 3 of them hit the left side of the ship. At first, the ship seemed stable, but within minutes, a huge explosion tore through her. The blast was so powerful that it lifted the ship out of the water, breaking it apart before it sank completely. Out of the roughly 1,200 crew members on board, 862 died, including the ship's captain, Jeffrey Cook. One of the survivors was Vice Admiral Henry Pridham Whipple. A film crew on a nearby ship captured the terrifying explosion, making it one of the few battleship sinkings ever caught on camera. An investigation later found that the torpedoes caused a fire near the smaller ammunition storage, which set off a chain reaction and exploded the ship's main gun magazines. To avoid giving the enemy an advantage and to keep morale high, British officials kept the sinking a secret for several weeks before informing the public in January 1942. Shinano, 1944. The Japanese aircraft carrier Shinano had an unusual beginning. When construction started in 1940, she was supposed to be the third ship in the Yamato-class battleships, some of the most powerful battleships ever built. But after Japan suffered huge losses at the Battle of Midway in 1942, the plan changed. Instead of becoming a battleship, Shinano was converted into an aircraft carrier. The idea was to turn her into a heavily armored support ship that could carry planes and supplies to other carriers and air bases. At over 67,000 tons, she was the biggest aircraft carrier ever built at that time, and to this day, she remains the largest warship ever sunk by a submarine. Shinano was officially commissioned into the Navy on November 19, 1944. Just 10 days later, she set out on her first voyage, even though she wasn't fully finished and hadn't done proper sea trials. She left Yokosuka, heading for Kure, with 3 destroyers escorting her. What the Japanese didn't know was that the American submarine USS Archerfish was lurking nearby. In the early hours of November 29th, Archerfish fired 6 torpedoes. 4 of them hit Shinano on her starboard right side. At first, the crew thought the damage could be handled. But there were a lot of problems. The ship's watertight compartments weren't properly sealed, many of the safety systems weren't working yet, and the crew didn't have enough training to deal with an emergency like this. Water kept rushing in, and the ship started to lean badly. They tried to balance the flooding by pumping water into other areas, but it didn't help. After several hours, the massive ship rolled over and sank about 65 miles off Japan's coast. More than 1,400 people lost their lives. After the war, U.S. experts looked into what went wrong. They found major design flaws and poor construction. One big issue was how the ship's armor belt connected to the torpedo protection system. It was so badly designed that the torpedoes caused massive internal damage. On top of that, no one had tested how watertight the ship actually was before sending her out to sea. All of these problems, along with an unprepared crew, led to the tragic sinking of a ship that was meant to show Japan's naval strength. To this day, the wreck of Shinano has never been found. It's believed to be lying about 13,100 feet deep in the northern part of the Ryukyu Trench. HMS Belfast, 1942. HMS Belfast was a light cruiser built for the Royal Navy. She was launched on March 17, 1938 in Belfast by Anne Chamberlain, the wife of the then Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. The ship was built by Harland and Wolff and was meant to protect trade routes and take part in offensive missions. She officially joined the Navy just before World War II began and was first used to help enforce a blockade against Germany. But not long after entering service, on November 21, 1939, Belfast hit a German magnetic mine while heading out for a training exercise. The explosion caused serious damage. The keel bent, parts of the ship's machinery and decks were badly shaken, and one of the boiler rooms was completely wrecked. About 20 crew members were injured, and sadly, one of them later died. The ship had to be towed back for repairs at Rosyth Dockyard. The damage was so bad that she was taken out of service in early January 1940. Over the next few years, Belfast went through major repairs and upgrades. Her armor was improved, the hull was reinforced, and advanced radar and fire control systems were added. These changes made her heavier, but also much stronger in battle. After nearly 3 years, she returned to service in November 1942. From there, Belfast took part in several key operations. She helped escort Arctic convoys carrying supplies to the Soviet Union and played a big role in the Battle of North Cape in December 1943, where she helped sink the German battlecruiser Scharnhorst. In June 1944, Belfast also supported the D-Day landings, firing at enemy positions to help British and Canadian forces on the beaches. Today, HMS Belfast is a museum ship, permanently docked on the River Thames in London. USS Liberty, 1967. The USS Liberty started out as a cargo ship named SS Simmons Victory, built in 1945. Later, in 1964, it was turned into a spy ship for the US Navy working under the NSA. It was packed with high-tech equipment used to listen in on electronic communications like phone calls and radio signals. By 1967, during the rising tensions of the Six-Day War, Liberty was sent to the eastern Mediterranean to keep an eye on what was going on in the region. On June 8, 1967, while sailing in international waters near the Sinai Peninsula, the ship was suddenly attacked by Israeli forces. First, Israeli planes opened fire with machine guns and dropped napalm bombs. Then, torpedo boats arrived and launched 5 torpedoes, one of which hit the ship hard. The attack was devastating. 34 American crew members were killed and 171 were injured. Still, the crew did everything they could to keep the ship afloat, and eventually it was towed to Malta for emergency repairs. Later investigations claimed that the attack happened because the Israelis mistook Liberty for an Egyptian ship, but many of the survivors, and even some officials, didn't agree with that. They pointed out that Liberty was clearly marked and flying a large American flag. Both the US and Israel held their own inquiries. Israel later apologized and paid compensation to the families of those who died and to the US government. The damage to Liberty was too severe to fix. She was officially taken out of service in 1968 and later sold for scrap in 1973.